In this case, this is where does Google make its money, right? And so it starts with this chart up at the top, little stack bar. It says 97% of the revenue comes from advertising. They have this bright, colorful pie chart that shows you the top 20 most expensive keywords you can buy on Google AdWords. But as long as you walk away understanding Google makes their money from advertising, mission accomplished. That was their key message. You don't need to know that number 6 was lawyer, number 18 is rehab. You know, that's fun data, it's interesting, it's supportive data, but it's not the key message. So if they skip over some of the stuff and they just read the top, that's okay, because that's the message I wanted to communicate. Google's making their money from advertising. Some designs break that rule, what I call data-dense designs. And these are much more for exploration. This is a visualization of all of the automobile accidents in the state of Wisconsin. In this case, I think it's 2011. And the way this works is that every column is the calendar. Here's the calendar for reference from January down to December, but every column is a different cause of those automobile accidents. All right, so this one over here, this is deer season. So everything happens in October and November. Right next to it, these are all alcohol-related accidents. And I don't know if you can see it on there, but everything happens on Saturday and Sunday on the weekends. And you start to see patterns based on what was the cause of those different accidents. And what you look at when you see this might be different than what I look at, because it's so data dense, we might be looking for different things. Most of the infographics online are what I call the tall format. You see these quite often online, and they work great online, right? Web browsers are great at scrolling top to bottom. If the text or the graphic goes down below the screen, it knows to give me a scroll bar. It's actually easier for your finger to scroll up and down than it is side to side. Side to side is really hard. But they only work online. If you're also going to need to put them in a presentation, you can't read any of that, right? I had to shrink it down so far to fit on this presentation slide that it's just too small. If I had to print this off on a letter-sized piece of paper, you still wouldn't be able to read it. So it only works if online is going to be the primary publication method. If you know, like, your company is also going to want to put it out in PowerPoint and send it as a PDF to all their email address lists, you might want to design it to fit on a piece of page or on a presentation slide. So you just need to know that up front where it's going. Now, not all infographics are static, far and away. Most of them are. Most of them are static image files, but there's this huge scale of different formats that we use for infographics. So it starts with static. This is a comparison that actually shows you all the conversion rates in your kitchen. And so they sell this as a poster that you hang up, and it says, okay, how many cups go in a quart, how many quarts go into a gallon, how many teaspoons go into a table, whatever, right? And this is just a static thing that you reference, so it's just a JPEG file. If we move up, there's actually a zooming interface. So this is a static JPEG file, but it's a poster. It's highly detailed. It's a 100-year history of pop and rock music. And online, you can't read any of that. You'd have to buy the poster. So online, they create the zooming interface, right? So this code that allows you to zoom in, move around, gives you controls at the bottom, gives you a guide at the top left, so you know where are you in the overall poster, that kind of thing. And so it creates some interaction with the users, even though the graphic itself is static. It's just a really high-resolution JPEG file. Then we have pop-up information, right? So we try to hide as much data as possible so that you see the graphic, you don't see all the data. So this is the state of North Carolina. I think this was 2012 election data. And so what you see is red-blue, the result of every polling district in North Carolina. But if you ever hover over any one particular polling district, it will actually pop up and show you the specific data. So you don't actually see that unless you're the kind of person who wants to dive in and see the specific numbers. Otherwise, you see red-blue across the state, and even by color saturation, you can see where the population centers are. So this is something the New York Times did. They can be clickable. They can be used as navigation tools. So this is an infographic of, I think it was the top 26 wine apps for the iPhone. So they're in these categories here of what kind of apps they are. But they're all clickable, right? So you can click any of them and it takes you to that app's website or to that app on the iTunes store. And this whole thing is just an interactive interface on a website. The nice thing about this is that we then export this as a PDF file. All those hot links go along with it in the PDF file. So you can create a navigation graphic that you then email to somebody as a PDF, and all of those are clickable and bring up those websites in their browser. Animated. So this is WinMaps. Anybody seen WinMaps before? Fernanda Vegas from Google designed this, and it'll show you within, I think 10 minutes is how long it takes to get the most current information. So as of 10 minutes ago, it'll show you the wind speed and direction across the country. And you can zoom in and zoom out. This is what it was when they saved some historical data from Hurricane Isaac.
What altitude?
Ground level.
Oh, okay.
So you can't use it if you're a pilot. You can't use it as anything else. But the idea is that they get it from the National Weather Service, and it's ground level wind speeds. So as infographic designers, we say, love this. This is all code. So it's really hard to share. So it's really tough for social media because when you share this stuff, that nothing goes with it, right? So we stole this idea and we're bringing back the animated GIF file, right? And so we'll make tall infographics, but we'll turn them into animated GIF files so that people can share them and still get some sort of animation or motion within the designs themselves. Some of them are just pretty. This is just eye candy to see this cheetah running, right? It's kind of fun, but it doesn't help you understand what's going on, where these wing patterns of bugs and birds and how they fly actually is conveying more information than you would have got without it. Then we have videos. We've gone up to infographic videos. Some of them are like this, which is code. So this was created in processing. It's visualizing Target store openings from 1950 to present. So as you see red dots pop up in these years clock by, that's every time a Target store opens. And so they created code offline and did a screen capture to create a video that they could then share on YouTube. These are called motion graphics. So it's a lot of icons and text sliding on and off. Sometimes there's music, sometimes there's narration, sometimes there are charts and data visualizations in here. Usually this kind of thing is, at the root level, you can even create these in PowerPoint and Keynote and then export as a movie. At the higher end, you'll start using Adobe After Effects to start creating animation and stuff in movies. This is actually a live action. These vials of liquid showing the growth of population by continent is something NPR did, and they just videotaped it. And then TED Talks. Anybody familiar with Hans Rosling? Anybody? Hans Rosling? Hans Rosling has done about 10 or 11 TED Talks. And what he does is he has this data visualization, this animation just running in the background. He doesn't have slides or anything else. He's just running in the background, and he's talking about what you see. And all these dots are countries, and all the color-coded by continent, and their size by population. You can see, depending on what the X and Y axes are, you can see what aspects are going on over time. He passed away earlier this year, so it's really sad. And then we have interactive, right? So this is called the misery map. Anybody familiar with the misery map? Misery map is all the airports in the country, and so it's showing you where all the flight delays are by airport and where those delays are going between different airports. So Dallas, at this scale, it's both DFW and Dallas, and you can zoom in. You can actually separate the two airports and stuff like that. But you get to dive in and interact with the data quite a bit. I do get the question of where we're going next and some of the stuff we're dabbling in. And there are really two opposite directions. One is smaller. So tablets, phones, down to the watch face, right? We're starting to do data visualizations on a much smaller scale. Again, removing text so that it can fit on there. You can actually make sense of it on those smaller screens. As well as mixed reality. So augmented reality, mixed reality. How do you display data in this environment? How do you make it work? People are looking for infographics. This is Google Trends and the number of people that put in the word infographic in their search. Like I said earlier, I started Cool Infographics in 2007, where on this scale it was just barely a bullet. But now people are just exploded looking for infographics. A lot of them are students. People are looking for infographics on topics before they go to Wikipedia. A lot of them are businesses, that kind of thing. You start to see some patterns like this dip is once a year. That is actually the week between Christmas and New Year's every year. You start to see things like that. It's at this scale you can't tell, but every week the weekends dip, right? People are looking during the week, whether it's school or business or work. So good infographics, they're fast, right? 5 to 10 seconds. They're memorable because you made your key point visual. And ideally they're actionable. It's something your audience can do something with that data. So let's look at a couple ways companies are using infographics. There really are, like I said, two channels: external, marketing, sharing stuff; internal, employee education, board meetings, sales presentations, that kind of stuff. So these are all, I think, all external. This is a visual process of how affiliate marketing works. And it's just a 10-step process. There's no charts here, there's no numbers. But we visualized these three characters along a path. It could have been a 10-step bullet point list in a blog post, just in text. But by making it visual, she's now selling posters of this because it was so popular, people were downloading it and printing it. You wanted to have popular, related, that's the best, biggest word right there, is related topics to your business. Because you want people that find your infographic and share your infographic. You want those keywords related to that infographic to be related to your business. We'll talk more about that later. PR. So this is an infographic Honda did. It's actually a 6-foot retractable banner that they took around when they released the 2013 Honda Accord, which was a new redesign of the Honda Accord. And so they put this out at every press event where they were revealing the new design to the press. They gave out USB sticks and printouts of it to all the members of the press that came to their events. It was totally focused on the press. And then months later, they kind of just threw it up on Flickr. Right? It was never really meant for online. They just finally just threw it up because why not? They got it. Internal data. So sometimes companies share internal data because it helps establish them as an industry expert. It builds their credibility. This is a series of infographics for Hotels.com because they have data across all the hotel chains, right? They're not just specific to Marriott or to Hilton. They see trends across the entire hotel industry. And so they released this series of infographics sharing different kinds of data on their press site and not their main consumer site. The most popular infographics online are how-to, informative, valuable information. This is what gets shared the most, what gets viewed the most. If it doesn't feel like an advertisement, if it feels like just valuable, good information, that's what does the best. Companies use this for elevator pitches, what I call their elevator pitch, right? So within 5 to 10 seconds, what do you want someone to know and remember about your company? In this case, it was their geographic region, how big they were, how much warehouse space they had, right? And that's what they wanted people to remember. Consumer emails. Have you started getting customized emails that actually have data visualizations of your individual customer data? So if anybody has a Nest thermostat, anybody, you'll get this email that says how much energy you use compared to your neighborhood, right? Or how much you used compared to the month before. Sumall, anybody familiar with Sumall? Sumall is tracking for social media accounts. So it'll show you how many followers, how many views you had, how many mentions you had, and it does this little side-by-side bar chart of 2 weeks ago and last week to sort of, you can see the trends of where we're going. And it's all customized so that my email is different than your email, which is different than your email. But it's all visual in the email. And then there are some very serious topics. Charities, humanitarian organizations have some very real issues that they're trying to get across. It might be to raise money. It might be trying to affect political change. This one is showing all the bombings in Sudan over the last 12 years. So you can get into some very serious topic because they're also trying to reach people and they want people to remember that information and act on that information. So, design tips. These may or may not affect you if you're the ones who are actually putting the infographics online. This is what you should expect from the marketing team or the design team. This is what they should come to you with. The challenge that we have is that, yes, most infographics online suck. They're really bad. Just because it's an infographic doesn't make it good. Very similar to YouTube. Just because it's on YouTube doesn't make it good. There's a lot of horrible, horrible videos on YouTube, and there's some really good ones.
Are you saying Geico sucks?
Pardon?
Are you saying Geico sucks?
No, I'm not saying Geico sucks.
That's what
Anybody Geico customer? Geico.
That's what the previous.
You do want to tell a story. You don't want to just throw random data into an infographic and expect it's going to create a message. The problem with data visualization and visualizing data in infographic is that there are two completely separate reasons to visualize data. And sometimes people mix the two when they use the same design for both. And this is where a lot of people get confused, or they'll say it's a bad data viz or a bad chart. There's discovery, which means someone's doing analytics. They're trying to understand what's in the data. They're trying to use visuals to help them find a trend or an insight or an outlier or a cluster or something in the data, which is very different from you've now found something and you need to communicate that to essentially the non-data audience, right? You need to share what you found and why it's important to somebody who doesn't want to see all the data. They don't want to see the spreadsheet. They don't want to see the math. They just want to know the answer. And what should we do with it? So it might be the analytics of the executives. Who knows what it is? So this is what I would say discovery data viz looks like. Everybody familiar with Wheeler's Waldo? Okay. I won't expect you to find Waldo, especially on this projector. But this is it. This is discovery data viz. You throw all the data in there. You visualize it to see if you can make some sense of it. In this one, you start to see clusters of color. They're all trying to reach that, so there's some general motion trend towards the castle, right? And so you might do some analysis and figure out what's going on. So eventually, you find Waldo, right? He's there. Now I got to go back to my executives and go, okay, we found the answer. Your executives don't want to see all this. They don't want to see all the math, right? They just want to see, hey, here's Waldo over there. And we found it from all this, but this doesn't matter, right? This is what we found, and this is what we need to do. And that's what they want to understand. So this is communicating. This, I've already found the answer, and I'm now trying to communicate it to somebody else. In infographics, we generally follow a three-part story format. Some intro, title, intro paragraph, might even be a couple charts that say what the topic is in the first place. What do you need to understand before you're going to understand this big insight that I'm going to reveal to you, right? We talked about that Google one early, and you've only got 5 seconds. You want to have one key message that you're trying to communicate, not 10, not 5, just one, because you only got 5 seconds. And then what do you want your audience to do with it, right? Some sort of call to action or conclusion. Now, it doesn't have to be a heavy sales pitch. This one is called the Tower of Beer. Anybody drink beer? Beer fans? Okay, so this one starts out with Tom starts investing $1 a day at the age of 25 in his retirement fund, right? And the aha is by the time he's 70, he will have amassed this retirement fortune that he can now afford this huge, massive stack of cases of beer, right, up into the clouds. And visually, we compare that to this teeny tiny Statue of Liberty, right? And here's the tallest tower in the world in Dubai. I can't pronounce it. And then here's his stack of beer. So he's fat, dumb, and drunk, right, in his retirement. And the call to action down here at the bottom is just learn more at rothira.com, right? It doesn't have to be a heavy sales pitch. It's just if your audience is interested and you've piqued their interest with your insight, what is it you want them to do with it? And so many forget this. Some of them will just stop right there. It's like, I gave you information. You should figure out what to do with it.
So this is not for beer.
Oh, if you want to retire that way, it's perfectly for beer drinkers. So sometimes you don't have a whole infographic to tell a chart, right? Or to tell a story. You need to tell a story in a chart. It might be in a PowerPoint presentation. It might be in a dashboard. It might be something you're sharing internally. So how do you take this chart of data and tell a story with it? You're going to use preattentive attributes. Anybody heard of preattentive attributes before? Leslie, heard of preattentive attributes? No? So preattentive attributes are those visual cues that your brain processes in nanoseconds. I mean, literally like 10 to 40 nanoseconds. Can be change in form. You will see that color, size, and position. You see that without using your higher brain functions. That's why you recognize that lion hiding in the grass, because that was a preattentive attribute of form, right? And you can see that, recognize it, and understand it super, super quickly. And so we use this in DataViz design. So we're going to do a quick exercise. I need everybody to stand up, but also make sure everybody's still awake. Now I'm going to show you a grid of numbers on the screen, and I want you to count the number of 4s in the numbers. How many number of 4s can you find? And when you have an answer, keep it to yourself and sit down. About 15 to 20 seconds to come up with an answer, right? It's really hard to do because you're having to skim every line. Every time you see one, you basically increment the counter you've got going in your head, then you keep going. Hopefully you went systematically, not just sort of randomly looking for 4s, but then it takes longer, right? Okay, so what did people find? 7, 8, 9. This one doesn't count. Okay, it's not a trick question. Okay, it's only in the grid of numbers. Okay, if I use preattentive attributes, I can use size and make them pop out at you. And here are 8 4s. That's the answer. There are 8. I can use opacity, where I actually make, like I did in Where's Waldo, make the rest of the data semi-transparent so that my data stands out. I can make it a color, make those 8 4s pop out, right? Or I can be just totally blatant and circle them, right? And say, here are the 4s, right? Here's the data I want you to look at. And your eye is not only naturally attracted to all those preattentive attributes, to whatever I do, but you're going to understand it faster. I can even combine them, right? So I can make them red, I can circle them, and I can make everything else semi-transparent, right? And now you can't miss them. So how do you do that in a chart? How do you use preattentive attributes visually to draw your audience's attention to the data I want to show? So this is skin cancer rates in these 4 countries over 1975 to 25, was that 32 years, something like that? And this yellow's hard to see on the screen, but that's okay, right? But it's really hard to understand what's going on here. I would take that chart and spend some time and massage it, never leaving, like this is Excel, never leaving Excel, just cleaning up this chart to something like this, right? Where now I've made Australia red, right? Here's the story, and I've even changed the title. Australia has the highest rate of skin cancer across the board compared to all these other countries. Excel and PowerPoint always make every data set a different color. I've made those gray, right? It doesn't matter. I'm just sort of graying those out. That's reference data. I got rid of all the text. Like, you don't need to know when 1983 was. It's just a general trend. That's just extra visual information you didn't need. I got rid of the grid lines and just really cleaned up the chart quite a bit. So it only takes about probably 10 or 11 steps to go from this chart to this chart. Never leaving Excel. It's not like this is Adobe Creative Suite, graphic stuff. It's all just in the charting tools about how to make your data stand out and tell a story. So here's something similar from the New York Times when Supreme Court Justice Scalia passed away. They visualized his history as a Supreme Court justice. You see all the other judges in semi-transparent. They're there for reference data, but obviously he's the whole story, and his history is the story, and that's the whole point. The other thing we do in storytelling is called the reveal, right? You want to lead people down a story. There needs to be a build-up, some action, right, and then a conclusion. They want to know what happens. You want to know what's in the box, right? Because you want to know how the story ends, and that helps people draw people along to understand what you're trying to tell them. Anybody watch An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore? Anybody see that? He did this with his chart of CO2 levels, right? So this was his chart of CO2 levels since ancient history. And then this was present day, and then he actually got up on a scissor lift, right, and blew off the top of the projector screen, and said, okay, so here's where the predictions are that our CO2 levels are going to go, right? And so he used the reveal. He gave you all the current information, and then said, watch this, where do you think it's going to go? And then he showed you, he revealed his story. New York Times does this. So this is, you draw it, what got better or worse during Obama's presidency. Right, and so in social media, it's got here are the Bush years, and then a couple different options. We don't know what happened during the Obama years. Right, it's like, I want to know what happened next. I want to know the answer. So this is just what gets shared on social media. When you go to the website, it says, okay, here are the Bush years. In this case, it's unemployment. Here are the Bush years. You draw the line where you think it went. Right, so you have to guess. You have to participate. And so you throw a line in. Say, okay, I think it went up. Right, and then they reveal to you the answer. It actually went up, but then it went down, right? And so this is what happened during the Obama years. And so they actually draw you into the story, which makes it much more memorable. You can do this in a presentation. This is in PowerPoint. So if you've got a new sales system, we say, okay, here are our prior sales up until the point we launched a new system. And this pilot program we launched with only a handful of our sales team. Here's what happened with the people who stayed on the old system. And here's what happened to everybody who moved to the new system, right? And so in nothing but a chart in Keynote or PowerPoint, I've now walked you through a story, gave you a build-up, and then revealed the ending. What's the story? We now want to put everybody on the system because it's so fabulous, whatever that system is. Inaccuracy is bad. I shouldn't have to say that, but I do. I have to tell people that inaccuracy is bad, right? When you see a chart like this, you look at the visual first, and then you read the numbers. And some people will figure out the numbers don't match the visual, right? That's not what that bar chart should look like with those numbers. And you got to be that kind of critical audience, and especially when you're on the publishing end, make sure that you're double checking what gets published, because this hurts your credibility so bad, right? So this is a bar chart. It should look like this, right? How concerned are you about the Zika virus? This not at all. It's tiny. It's not big like that. Pie charts have to add up to 100%. Right? You shouldn't have to tell somebody that. Pie charts have to add up to 100%. And you're going, what the hell happened here? Yeah. If you're into survey data, right, they basically, these are 3 separate answers, and you can pick as many as you want. You can support 2 of them. They had no business adding up to 100% because they have no business in a pie chart, right? That should be something more along the lines like this, which is here's how much support each of these candidates have, because people are fickle and they can support more than one. It's just crazy. And you'll see it, and you'll just move on because you're skimming, right? You got 280 newspapers to go. You're just going along fast. That's not what 80% looks like. That's not what 20% looks like, right? And you're just going along, going okay, right? When 80% should be more than 3/4 of the way around, right? And 20% should not be 1/4 of the way around. It happens all the time. It happens with the big guys. Everybody deal with Nielsen market share data and any of that kind of stuff. So this is Nielsen smartphone market share. This is actually back in 2012. And this is a tree map. So if you're familiar with a tree map, each rectangle is sized to match the percentage of the portion of the entire rectangle. So they all have a piece of all these numbers add up to 100%. But if you look at it, Apple at 34% and BlackBerry at 9% should not be similar. They're not the same, but they shouldn't even be similar. They shouldn't even be close. So somebody changed all the numbers and didn't change the tree map or something. I don't know what they did, but so they had to correct it. Right, here's what it looks like corrected when they put it out again in 2 weeks. They had to go retract it and say corrected, right? So Apple's way bigger than that 9%. All the data was right, so the numbers didn't change. They had the numbers right, but it was like the old tree map, right? That nobody ever actually updated the graphic itself. I call these false visualizations. Anybody remember this infographic from about 2 years ago? This was about the Ice Bucket Challenge. Everybody remember the Ice Bucket Challenge? So Vox Media put out this infographic. What it's trying to show is that this column are charities that are raising monies to fight diseases, right? And the size of the circle is how much money they're raising. And over here, these circles are how many people are dying from these diseases, okay? And the number's all great, the data's fine. The circles are completely wrong.
You mean just proportion?
Yeah, the proportions of the circles are just horrible, so I had to redesign it. I got really pissed off, okay? So this is what it actually looks like when you match the circle sizes to the data. And yeah, it goes, they got it, descending order. They were able to figure that out. But they couldn't actually figure out how to get the circle size correctly. And I added the lines connecting because, like this is breast cancer, so how much money is raised from Komen Walk for the Cure, and how many people die from breast cancer. So you want to connect the charity with the disease they're fighting, kind of thing. And they were trying to show that down here at the bottom of deaths was ALS, which was what the Ice Bucket Challenge was trying to raise money for. But because of the Ice Bucket Challenge, they were raising this disproportional amount of money. That was the whole point. But when you look at this, you never got that. You never got the point. So these false visualizations, the problem is that when you see charts, objects, shapes on a screen or on a piece of paper, you don't see the diameter, you don't see the height, you see the area. You see the 2-dimensional area of the entire shape. And so if I'm trying to show this value is 3 times larger than this value, I have to triple the area. None of the software has an open field that says area. It says width and height. And so what people do is they triple the width, the diameter. And if you want to keep it a circle, you got to do both, the width and the height, right? So you end up making a circle 9 times larger instead of 3 times larger like you were trying to do. To do it right, there's this formula. So if you know one value, so $36 versus $144. If this is a diameter of 0.36 inches, you just throw those 3 numbers in here, you can calculate what should the diameter be of this second circle. I have a cheat sheet, if anybody wants this cheat sheet that gives you that formula. And if by any chance your 2 numbers are some whole multiple, the math's already done for you. But if you email me, I can send this to you as a PDF. It's really easy. But you see this all the time. So here's CNN, right? CNN did this and made the exact mistake that I've been talking about and that I put in the book. So I'll blow up this legend here. So they're trying to map ISIS attacks, and they did it all over the world. This is the portion over in the Middle East. And they said, okay, this size circle is 1 incident, this size circle is 3 incidents. And what they did, right, is they tripled the diameter. But all this extra space your eye sees as area. So this looks like a major hot zone, right? And there are more attacks, there are 3 more attacks, but it should only be about this size, not this size, right? And went on for a year like that. It happens for everything. It's how you view bar charts too. Even though we adjust and design bar charts by height or by length if it's a bar chart horizontally. And the math is just easy with rectangles. Circles are hard. It's directly proportional on a rectangle. It's really easy. So if I do the math here about $1 million versus $3 million, and I do the math of the area of this one is actually 3 times larger than this. That's what you're seeing. You never want to make a bar chart that doesn't have the same width bars, because then the math doesn't work anymore, right? Is this one bigger than this one? Can anybody tell? I can't. There's no way. So it's all about area. So these are the big 3: pie charts, bar charts, and line charts. Far and away, most of the data in the world is visualized in one of these 3 ways. But there are many, many, many more ways to visualize data. Right, so PowerPoint gives you about, when you open up the chart menu, right, it's about, I think 30 different chart styles, something like that. This is Keynote, that gives you about a dozen. This is Tableau. Anybody? Tableau users? Anybody? No Tableau users? Okay. Gives you not only about 20, but depending on what data you have highlighted, it's colored using preattentive attributes, the charts that it can make with the data you have highlighted over on the data side. It can make all these other charts that are gray, but those don't actually match the data you have currently selected. This is IBM Watson Analytics. Anybody playing with IBM Watson Analytics? Same thing. But so that's like 30 to 12 to 20. There are hundreds of ways to visualize data, right? This is a snapshot of the gallery from the D3 library. Anybody playing with the D3 library? There's probably a pretty high chance that somebody here, a couple. But there are a couple tools you can use, because you need your own DataViz toolbox. The software to make a good map is different than the software to make a good bar chart, which is different than the software to make a good word cloud, which is different than the software to make a good tree map. Right? So you may have to have a couple different ways to visualize your data. There's a couple handy tools. This is called the chart chooser. So if you just need to know what kinds of charts go with your data set, you start here in the middle and you say, okay, what kind of data do I have? Comparisons, or distribution data, or composition data, and then it goes down and says, okay, here are the charts that you can make with that kind of data. Pretty simple. It's a downloadable PDF. You can print this off. It's really easy. Called the chart chooser. This is a website called the Data Visualization Catalog, and it's a personal project of Severino's, and every one of these bubbles is a different data visualization style. And if you click on them, it will show you examples of that data visualization style, a description of how it's used, as well as, if he has it, links to tools or online examples, or specifically, more importantly, the tools of a piece of software or website that can make that visualization for you. So it's a really, really handy reference, and it's all free, which is really nice. One of the exercises we do in my class is to come up with how many ways can we come up to visualize percentages. I've gotten up to about 32, I think. But we made this cheat sheet of just, here are 20 ways, the 20 most easiest ways to visualize percentages. So this is another cheat sheet that if you want a copy of that, just to give you inspiration, to give you ideas to break out of visualizing a percentage in a pie chart. I'll send you the PDF so that you can just break out and use some of these different styles. And you have to give people reasons to believe your data, especially in today's world. This is even more so than when I wrote the book. But you have to be very clear about where your data is coming from, dates from the data, how it was gathered, and even let people see your data. So I call that being data transparent. And in infographics, this is a great example. This is the budget of the BBC, visualized as a tree map. So the different channels and the different departments in the BBC and how much money they get. But down here in the footer, they have a link not only to their sources, but to a Google Docs spreadsheet of all the data. So anybody can go to that Google Docs spreadsheet and look at the numbers they used and challenge them if they want to, or visualize them their own way. They were just hyper data transparent. And hardly anybody actually goes and looks at the data. It's just the fact that they've made it available builds their credibility tremendously. If you go the other way, so the White House under Obama started posting infographics on the White House blog. I'm sure it was some intern doing it. And so this is the Obama energy agenda, and it was all about our reliance on oil and alternative energy sources. A whole bunch of information about percent clean energy and our consumption of solar and wind. Nobody has any idea where any of the numbers came from. Nothing. There are no data sources listed. Nobody has any idea where they came up with these numbers. So nobody was actually talking about the topic. Everybody was like, did they make these up? These aren't the numbers I've seen. I've never seen these numbers before. Where did they get this data? Where can I find this data? And because they just didn't list it at all. There's no data source whatsoever. I love Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a data source. Don't use Wikipedia as your data source. At the bottom of every Wikipedia page, this is the page from the page on infographics, is a list of references that say where all the information and data came from. Follow that link and make sure that data is what you said, what you think it is before you start using it, and then use that as your source, not Wikipedia. Unless your infographics about Wikipedia, that's different. But I also say don't obscure your data sources. So if I just tell you it came from USPTO, the Patent and Trademark Office.org, good luck finding it, right? I just data.gov. There's a lot of data there. Good luck. And you really want to actually give people a link to the actual specific data source. So here's an infographic we did about the DFW area and startups and co-working locations and a whole bunch of stuff. This is what you want your sources to look like. You actually want to have the link to the data so that people can find that information after the fact. And just like the BBC one, hardly anybody's going to actually go to these data sources, but by giving them, and make sure they're right, because some people will, build your credibility instantly so that people are now paying attention to your information and not worrying about where your data came from. Okay, tell a story, be accurate, try different chart styles, because, man, I've seen reports with 150 bar charts in them. Oh my God. And be data transparent. Okay, now we're going to start getting a little more geeky and talk about you've got a design, or marketing has given you a design, or the design team has given you a design. Now they say, okay, we need to put it online. Go for it. So we're going to talk about how you publish infographics. You have to really take some time beforehand to set up how you release and publish your infographics, because it will have huge impact on its shareability, its visibility in the search engines, as well as how many people can actually find that landing page later and you'll be able to track it. So we really end up having to start with SEO, right? So how many people either work with SEO or get asked to do things because of SEO? So search engine up, only a couple, really? I expected everybody. The problem is that if you post an infographic online, this is what it looks like to Google. It's an image asset. Your browser, the end user's browser, is going to display it when they go to the web page. Google has no idea what's in the infographic whatsoever, right? Their spiders can't see it, they can't read it. They've tried OCR, it doesn't work. I've seen what some of the graphic designers do. There's no way that an OCR is going to be able to read that text in an infographic. If you get into SEO, and Google is pretty cagey about what's in their algorithm. This was an infographic, this one over here on the left is an infographic about the 200 things that people know, that the SEO companies know is in the algorithm. And you can see it scrolling by. You can see how far down the infographic we are, right? Huge amount of things go into Google's algorithm. What's that? And keep going, and keep going, and keep going. But there are only a few things that make a huge difference when it comes to infographics. From an SEO standpoint, the goal of SEO is to put out content, infographic, video, blog post, whatever that content is, to drive traffic and to increase your company's page rank, right? The way you increase your page rank, the best way to increase your page rank is to have backlinks from other high-ranking sites, right? That's really the end game. You want other news sites or high-respected sites to post a link back to your infographic, because to Google that means, oh, you're doing something important. You're going to show up higher in the Google search results when somebody searches for your stuff. The challenge is, especially with infographics, is that social media doesn't count. Google does not use something that went viral on Twitter as an indicator of your SEO or your page rank. It's great for exposure. It's great to get your stuff out in front of a whole bunch of eyeballs, but Google is not good at using social signals in part of their algorithm. Question?
What about LinkedIn?
Same thing.
You know, it's interesting because my profile on LinkedIn comes up quicker than my own website.
It's indexed, right? And so it shows up in the search engines, but if an infographic goes viral, in the news feed of LinkedIn,
Oh, I see.
or in the news feed of Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest, they can't read that. Part of it is that these guys don't play well together, right? Twitter wants to sell their data. The fire hose from Twitter, they want to sell to people. They don't just give it away. The only exception to that might be YouTube, because Google owns them. Google can see a whole bunch of YouTube data. And it's another reason why you want your infographic, we talked about this earlier, to be relevant to your business. So here's a very popular infographic about James Bond movies. Hugely popular. Hundreds of websites reposted it. Went viral. Put out by H&R Block. Tax preparation company. Okay? They were just going for some hot topic that they could get some views and get some clicks. And in the early ages of SEO, like 5, 6, 8 years ago, that was fine. These days, that means nothing. Because what does it help H&R Block if they show up in the search results for James Bond? So we have this process. And this is our infographic release strategy that I've put together for my clients. It's everything we do when we start with, okay, we finished designing the infographic. Now what do we do? How do we put it online? And there are really only 4 sections to this. The landing page, self-promotion, outreach, and tracking. And so we're going to start with the landing page. And you guys, since you guys are way into the web design, stop me if I've misstated something. You guys might actually catch some of this. So number one, we want to nail the landing page. Before we even tell anybody we've designed this infographic, we want to make sure that when they come and see the infographic, everything's there. That it's all set up for our audience to come and see it. And so we're going to dial it up to 11. I like to use the dial up to 11. Things that we want to do to our infographic landing page. Number one is we're going to start with this fictional infographic. So we've designed this infographic, SEO strategies used by the experts. We know what keywords we would like to rank for, and it's related to our business. But then what do we do with it? Where do we post this infographic? Well, we want it to be somewhere we control. We want it to be somewhere that I can put analytics around it. I can even put text around it, and I want to drive as many links as possible to one page, not to 5 pages. I don't want to put this infographic in 10 different places and then scatter my traffic, because Google looks at how many people go to that one site. Many times, the web developers or IT group will come back and say, okay, we put your infographic online, it's up on the web server, here's the address for it. And it's the address for the JPEG itself. This happens a lot. Don't do this. Don't do this to your marketing team, right? I can't track that. I can't do anything with that. Remember, this is just a blank image to Google. I can't do anything with just an image file. I need a page. I need a dedicated web page that I can do analytics, I can do layout, and I can add as much text as I want to it. So I want an HTML, I want an actual web page on the company's site. And here's just an expert tip that almost every designer misses, is that once you know that URL, put that URL in the infographic. Most people, when I say most, like 70, 80% of people that share infographics do not link back to the original site. Right? If you want people to be able to find your original infographic and get back to your web page, you got to tell them that address so they can get back to you. So that's your landing page URL. Now, I've used my keywords. It's a good thing. I should use my keywords in my URL. Leslie, go ahead.
How do you want to put the URL into the image? Are you laying it on as a in the image?
Yep,
or
it's
are you
in the JPEG image file itself, so that when somebody grabs that JPEG and puts it on their blog, it doesn't link, doesn't grab any of my other text, that all they do is grab that image and upload it to their blog post, then that URL goes with it.
Is it in the meta description? Or
It can be, but the audience is not going to see that. The search engine, the audience wouldn't see that. You want it somewhere in the visual image that someone can see and type in if they have to.
So you want them to be able to see it. So it's
Yep.
going to be in the image.
In the image
Okay,
itself.
it's not going to be a hotspot
No, if it's
necessarily.
like in PowerPoint or in well, it could be PowerPoint or Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever, wherever you're designing this, put the text block in
Yeah.
there and then export the whole thing as a JPEG file.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, so spiders, right? Google's looking for what are the keywords in your URL. The keywords in that infographic landing page matter. You don't want to do this. You don't want to run all the words together. They're okay. They're generally good at knowing when one word stops and one word starts. But if you have custom product names or words that aren't in the English dictionary as part of your business, it really starts getting messed up. Now,
So put a hyphen or?
don't do this either. Don't use an underscore to separate your words. Why?
It's not a word.
It's a word joiner. So when Google sees an underscore, it actually makes it look like this, one long word. And you have to have all those words in your search for actually to make that connection. You actually do want to use hyphens, because hyphens are word separators. So in your URLs, you want to use, I don't know if I have it in the next one or not. So here's our landing page URL, right? It uses keywords, it uses hyphens so it can parse the words in that. We're not running them together. The sequence of words matters. Words up front are more important than words at the end. So I usually tack infographic on the end, because people, we saw earlier, are searching for infographics. Oh, we see it here. People are searching for infographics, right? So I usually stick that in the URL as well. But these are the keywords I'm really pushing, so I put those at the front of that page URL. Also, shorten your own link, because then you can use this shortened link in all your social media posts, in email blasts, anywhere you're going to share, and you can get additional analytics because you created that shortened link instead of somebody else on Twitter using their own shortened link. So you can use Bitly. Some companies have their own shortened link with their own company name, like Amazon and Twitter and stuff like that. They have their own link shortener. Or you can just use raw Bitly for free and create a link, and you can customize the end of this. This is just random characters, but Bitly lets you put your own words in here. So I could put SEO experts in there, but it has to be, because I'm using Bitly for free, it's going to say Bitly. They have to be unique, right? So every URL has to be unique. It can't be a shortened URL that somebody else has used before. Once you use it, it's locked forever in Bitly. Okay. So my landing page URL, we're going to start building our landing page. Shows up in my address bar. That's where someone's going to type in to get there. Now our landing page layout in general is going to look like this. We want some text, we want some social media sharing buttons, we want the infographic, and then we want some embed code. Okay? First thing you want to put on there is a title tag. Everybody familiar with the title tag? So title tag is actually in the header HTML. So if you're coding the text of HTML, it goes in here and it's just title and title. It may be a block in your WordPress, Joomla, Squarespace, whatever platform you're using. That's just a title tag. You want to use natural language. Notice I put spaces in there, and it's just a couple words, but it's descriptive as to what the topic or what the destination URL has, because Google and others use that title tag everywhere else. When you get Google search results, your title tag is what shows up as the bold clickable text. Your title tag shows up either in the header or in the tab of your browser, as well as if you don't do anything else and somebody tries to share your link, that text that's your title tag will become that link in the social media. So that text in the title tag gets used in a whole bunch of different places.
Even when you print PDFs.
Mm-hmm.
When you print PDFs. A lot of sites don't account for printing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that will you see that title tag show up.
What about QR codes instead of the URL?
Not instead of. You could do it in addition to, but not instead of. Not everybody can handle a QR code. So here, title tags, what will happen, and it is literally based on the number of pixels across the screen, but at some point, Google's going to start cutting it off. Right, and with the ellipses here, the 3 dots, so there's more text, but I couldn't fit it on the Google search results page anymore. Generally, real general rule, it's about 55 characters, 50 to 60 characters. But because of the font, it depends on what characters those are. Are they all caps? Do they scrunch down? It's how many pixels it gets across the screen. So I generally tell people, keep your title tag, and in general, your title of your infographic, because why not keep them all consistent, under 55 characters. And so that's what shows up here, up in the title bar of the page. Now, a page title is not the title tag. The page title is something completely different. This is H1 attributed text that actually displays to the reader. So if I now put a title down here in the body under H1, it'll show up in the body of the page, big and bold, because H1 is the most important text on the page. And Google knows that. Now, you want a text description, a visible text description to the user. Keep it short, because if you make it long, then they won't even see your infographic. It'll be down beyond the scroll, below the bottom of the window. So keep it 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 3 if you're pushing it. Feel free to put in text links to product pages or other pages on your website, because what happens in a lot of cases is somebody who's going to share that infographic needs text on their page too, in their blog post or whatever. They will copy this and the infographic and put it in theirs as part of sharing it, or in their Facebook post or something like that. And that gives you not only the link to the infographic, but it gives you an extra text link if they just copy and pasted this paragraph of text. So that shows up on the page. So here's a little text. Here's what our infographic is about. Now you need social media sharing buttons. There are a couple ways you can put your own social media buttons on there. You can go to every site individually and design buttons, or you can use one of these common, there are a couple more sites where you just put in one block of code, and it gives you all the buttons you need in one block. You guys have any preference or exposure to one versus the other? Do you design your own, or you guys subscribe to one of these multi-button services? You subscribe to one of these?
Yeah.
Which one do you know?
Sure.
Share this? Okay. You know? I know I use add this.
A lot of times we use like font
Like what?
options.
Yep. You want these to be up at the top above the infographic. You don't want to put these at the bottom of the page. Now, if you actually design one button at a time, this is the interface on Twitter to design a Twitter share button. It gives you a couple of extra benefits that sometimes you can go around if you use one of those other services and make happen, but it's really easy if all you want to do is design a Twitter button, where you can put in here the link that you want it to link to. It could be your shortened link that you created, or it could be your landing page link. You can put in your default text. So when they say, you know, I want to tweet this, it pops up with a Twitter window, but it already has filled in a sample tweet that they could use. Most people will just say, sure, that's great, tweet, right? And so you can actually control some of that text. They can change it before they hit tweet, but it gives you the default text. You can even add an image. So you might want to be very careful, we'll talk about this in a minute, about what image goes on social media, because tall infographics don't fit on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere else. Pinterest is the only place they fit to see the whole infographic. So this is where you want your sharing button to show up on the page, up above the scroll, and now we're going to put our infographic in. So here's our infographic, our fabulous infographic that we designed, right? Do not take a file that says infographic.jpg and upload that to your website. Your file name is just as important as your landing page URL. It matters. So the same rules apply. Don't use underscores, that's a word joiner. Use hyphens. Create keywords to describe what is your infographic, so that your parsed words out of the file name of the JPEG actually matter and help Google decide when that infographic should show up in search results. So here's a good file name, with hyphens, with keywords, ends in JPEG. Nice and easy to read. Now, you want to use the image alt text attribute. Everybody familiar with the alt text attribute? I don't need to tell them. So this was used to be used by used today by screen readers. It used to be when those of us used to use modems, and we would turn off images because the internet was so slow. The only way to get a web page up was to see only the text. This is the text that would show up instead of the image. And so we use this image source in the HTML. We want to use alt, and we want to use natural language in here because screen readers are going to read it. So it may read out loud to someone with vision impairment. And Google knows if you do what's called keyword stuffing. So if all you do is put a string of keywords in there, Google will say, we'll just ignore all that. In fact, we're going to deprecate this whole landing page because obviously it's an SEO scam. So don't just load it with a whole bunch of words. Put a sentence in there, put a little phrase, just something that's natural English language. Okay, so when we put that source in there, now our image shows up. It runs off the bottom of the page because it's a tall infographic, and gives us a nice scroll bar. Now at the bottom, we want to put embed code. So embed code is this HTML code that will appear on the page that someone can copy and paste. And if they put this code on their site, our infographic shows up. And it saves them the step of downloading the JPEG, uploading it to their blog, and adding text. And the other advantage is not only does it pull the image from our server, but it allows us to add the alt text, and it allows us to add the href link, so we have that image that links directly back to our infographic landing page. We control all of that. Now, don't go crazy. This is fully functional HTML code. It just appears on the page as code instead of rendering. If this code runs off the bottom of the screen, you got to scroll down to see all the code, and nobody's ever going to use it. Right? You're going to scare people off so fast. Because a lot of people who are going to use this, they understand the basic image and link, but once you start putting extra JavaScript links and who knows what else in there, they're going to say, whoa, I don't want that on my site. Because people can't abuse it. You want to use what's called the text area attribute. So anything between text area and the body, this code will now appear as code instead of being rendered by the browser. So now this shows up, nice at the bottom, nice link that says, hey, please share by copying and pasting this code below. And now we've built our landing page. So now from a design standpoint, not only do we have the infographic, but we want to design these thumbnails that people can use in social media, in email blast, and anywhere else. So it might be one section of the infographic we steal. It might just be this header part. But we want these smaller images. And every social media site displays images at a different size. What a pain in the ass. So yes, we create one for Twitter, and we create one for Facebook, and we create one for LinkedIn, and we create one for Instagram, whatever. This link is probably the most current one. There are a whole bunch of infographics about what image sizes all the social media sites display. It changes practically monthly when they start tweaking stuff or changing the size of the header or the photos that appear. So here's why we do the difference. I call this explicit versus implicit images. If you, this is Facebook, just put in this link in the text of your post, it's going to go to that page, try to find an image, maybe give you a couple options of images, and then here's the title tag we put in earlier, but it makes it in this tiny little thumbnail. Alternatively, if I created that thumbnail separately in the design part, I could upload that as a photo and it displays at a nice full size. I would rather people see this in the news feed than this, because this just sort of buries everything. Twitter does something even weirder. So if this is my tall infographic, if I post that image into my Twitter tweet, it will take a snapshot exactly in the middle of that infographic of whatever, it's a 2:1 aspect ratio is what Twitter uses, and it'll pull it right out of the middle no matter where it is. Versus if I create a thumbnail, I can just upload that and now it's something I actually want people to see on social media. So it takes a little bit of work to create a couple extra JPEGs to use in social media. You want it to be mobile friendly. What you don't want to do on the web page as whoever's putting it on their page is to take the full size image. Sometimes these infographics are huge, right? 20 megabytes, big JPEG, tall, high res, 300 DPI, right? Because the design team wants it to be super high res and super great, right? So you might put it on the server and then in the image attribute say, okay, cut it down. Show my width only as 800 wide and 1500 tall, okay? The browser will do that if you tell it to, but it's still a 20 megabyte file, right? So it's going to download the full 20 megabyte file and then display it at this size. So we actually suggest, if your software doesn't already do it, and a lot of them are starting to, create multiple sizes of your infographic specifically for a full-size version, a blog version, maybe an email version, and create smaller sizes of your infographic. Once you set up your landing page, everybody used the mobile-friendly test on Google. So Google has a mobile-friendly test. You can put your landing page URL in there, and it'll say, yeah, it took too long to load, and your image is too big, and it'll give you a score. So you guys are familiar with that already.
Is this like, sometimes I put like a gallery of pictures.
Yeah.
I have like small thumbnails and they click and they load.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bring the full blown
Yep.
for speed.
So let's go back. If you do it this way, so you put the big one up and then size it on the page to be smaller, so it just displays smaller, you click on it, it'll blow it up and show you the big size. Right? If you make multiple sizes, this is the full size. It doesn't get any bigger than this. There's no zoom in or zoom out unless you make that a clickable link to go to a higher resolution version somewhere else.
Right.
And it's up to you. I mean, if you can read everything at this size, you don't need a bigger size. If some of this text is too small to read and you want people to be able to zoom in, then you got to create that functionality to go to a higher res version. Now, usually what I do, 800 pixels is my general rule. Like that should be the full size original infographic on the landing page. 500 pixels should be your blog post size. So the smaller size could be the full infographic, it's just smaller, and then you click that and it takes you to the landing page. We actually use this 500 pixel size in the embed code. Let's go back to the embed code. Right? So here you'll notice, buried in here, that this is infographic small 500 pixels. So when people put it in their blogs, and I find this is especially true for WordPress sites, the content area of a WordPress blog is usually 500 to 600 pixels wide, and that's it. If I were to put my full 800 pixel wide JPEG there, in some templates, in a lot of cases, it would just blow out through the sidebar, right? And you'd have this image that's wider than your content space. So we actually put this 500 pixel size in the embed code. Okay, number 11, super secret expert tip. Anybody here a photographer? When you take photos, your JPEG images have what's called extra EXIF data. Okay? It's how your photos know its GPS coordinates, the date the photo was taken, the f-stop, the aperture, all this great stuff about the photo. Well, your infographic is a JPEG too, but it doesn't have any of this EXIF data unless you give it. So there are a whole bunch of, and Photoshop won't do this, but there are a whole bunch of EXIF editors. I use this one called EXIF Editor on the Mac. That if you drop in any image, so here's an image from South by Southwest, it'll show you the shutter speed and the focal length and the GPS coordinates here, and even what kind of camera, like it was my iPhone, you know, and some other stuff. So it pre-fills all this in when you use a modern camera. So if I drop in, here's my JPEG of my infographic, it's all blank because there's no EXIF data, but using the editor, I can add that data, right? So I can add a title, I can add an artist, I can add keywords, I could add a date if it mattered, or GPS coordinates if it mattered, a headline here, and all that metadata from the JPEG goes with it when someone does nothing but grab your JPEG and post it on their site. Suddenly all this data goes along with it. Now it's not visible to the user, but Google can see it. Google knows what the title is. Google knows what these keywords are.
You do this with Photometric.
Okay. I mean, there are a whole bunch of apps that'll do this, but it's not built into the normal ones like Photoshop. Hardly anybody does this. This is great for your infographics. Okay, so that's your landing page. Then you got to do promotion, right? You got to actually tell people you put an infographic out there. And this really, you push this back onto the marketing team, although you may be involved in some of it. Number one, we talked about before, I created this one landing page. I want everything to point back to this landing page. I want Google to see that thousands and thousands of people are going to this landing page. So your company blog should make a post about your infographic, send them to the landing page. So your company social media accounts, this is all self-promotion. Your email newsletter to customers, if you can get permission to do it, put a thumbnail on the front page of your website, even if you only do it for a week or two, that it's new and from the company, come check out our infographic. All that should point to your landing page. On social media, you want to post across every channel the company has. You want to post multiple times because people look at Twitter multiple times or different times during the day, or Facebook or whatever. So you want to do one in the morning, one in the evening, one in the middle of the night if you have an international audience. You want to do one on a Tuesday, one on a Friday, one on the weekend. You want to mix it up. You can post the same post across channels. So you can take one post and put it on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff like that. Different days of the week, different times of the day. Ideally, each post should be a little bit different because you will have a certain portion of your audience that sees, damn, I already saw that post, why did it come up again? Right? But it might be one stat from your infographic, a second stat from your infographic, a third stat from your infographic. 3 different things, but they all point to the same landing page so that if somebody sees it, it's like, okay, there's more information there and it's less annoying. And then include those thumbnail images. People are going to look at them if they have images. So Bitly did this study, and this is called the half-life of a link. And from the millions and millions of links that have been put through the Bitly link shortener, what this tells us is that for most, like this is Facebook, this is Twitter, this is direct that you'll get half of your clicks of all time in this case, the first 3 hours. So if you're gonna do it multiple times, don't do it like one now and one 30 minutes later, right? That first one's still doing okay. This one over here, this is YouTube for some reason, takes 8 hours. Takes longer for YouTube. But break it up, right? So do one at 8 a.m., and then the next day at noon, and then the next day at 5 p.m., you know, or something like that. Break it up so that it's different days and different times of the day. Because you will catch a completely different audience each time that never saw the first one. Because you've got audiences coming at different times of the day. Everybody familiar with the Facebook 20% rule? No? Okay. If you want to pay to promote an ad or a post on Facebook, your image, and this has already been deprecated, so I'll explain. You can only include 20% text. So you draw a 5x5 grid on whatever size your image is. It could be the full infographic or it could be just your thumbnail. There can only be text in 5 squares. If there is text in more squares, that means you're loading your image with text, and they won't let you pay to promote it. They don't want that kind of paid advertisement or paid images on Facebook. This is the way it used to be. They've now created a new tool called the Facebook Image Tester. So in the Facebook Image Tester, you can upload whatever image you're about to share, and it will give you one of these 4 scores. It's okay. The image text is low. There's still a little bit too much there, so they actually don't promote it as much if it has more text. Medium means it's not going to get much exposure at all, and if it's high, if it's loaded with text, they're going to say, we're not going to run it at all. Nobody's going to see your paid ad. So you can take any image and load it up here, or upload it here, and it will give you a score. So this one was a little banner to advertise this virtual summit, and they said, okay, that one's okay. There's a little bit of text at the bottom, but the whole image isn't loaded with text. I think this would have failed this test, because it would have been text across the entire bottom of this image, but they've decided that that's okay. So this image tester is a little bit different, but it's still pretty close to this 20% rule. Anybody used the Facebook image tester before? Nobody? Okay. It's fairly new, just came out at the end of last year.
Do you need to pay for this?
Nope. This is free. So this link and the links on that links page, you can go there and then just load any image and have it give you a result. But this is just for Facebook and just if you want to pay to promote it. If you're just putting up images in your company feed and just want organic links, this doesn't matter. This is only if you're going to put money behind it. You should also kick off sharing. So internal to your company, coworkers, vendors, customers, ask them to help start sharing your infographic. If your employees are not in the social media team or the marketing team, they are generally leery of posting stuff on behalf of the company. But infographics, you want shared as widely as possible. I don't care if your mom shares it. I want to get it in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So you generally have to give some sort of permission. It might be an email. It might be a blast to your internal network or something like that that says, hey, we've released this new infographic. Please feel free to share this because we want to get as much exposure as we can. You can't force anybody to do it. But you can actually ask and give them explicit permission to say, yes, this is company data or company information. We're asking you to go ahead and share it on your personal social channels. And then you turn around and do outreach, right? Key influencers in your industry, media news, personal networks, and my favorite, infographic sites. Key influencers, you got to make sure that they're actually influencers. It might be an industry, it might be somebody who posts about cybersecurity or infographics or whatever, but you can go to their site and figure out, does their site have page rank? How much traffic? How many followers do they have on social media? Have they posted infographics before? Give just sort of a feel, are they going to be open or receptive to your outreach to, hey, would you share our infographic with your audience? You want it to be a personal note, not just an email blast or a Twitter blast. You want to explain, why does this infographic have anything to do with your audience? Why would they want to post it? Give them the link to the landing page. Don't give them the image. Don't like attach it and say, here's the image. You want them to link to your landing page. That was the whole point of setting it up. And give them the text description because they need text on their site too. They might grab the paragraph, and this could be the paragraph from your landing page or it could be different text. Don't do this. And I get somewhere between 200 and 300 submissions a week on cool infographics of people that want me to post their infographics. Don't send a form letter. I can tell. If there are still blanks that have been unfilled, I can tell. Get my name right. or get my website right? I get emails all the time from my competitor sites because they didn't even bother to change the name of the website before they sent me the email. Like I said, don't include the JPEG image. You don't want me to upload it to my server and host it. You want me to link back to your landing page. You want to see that traffic. There's a PR trick, and you guys may or may not have seen this. There's a PR trick about offering exclusivity. So some company might say, hey, we're going to announce this new product. If you'd help us promote it with your audience, we'll give you exclusive information beforehand so that you can be early at releasing it. It doesn't work with infographics. Once you post an infographic, anybody can have it. There's no such thing as exclusivity in infographics. And so generally they ask for a reply. It says, hey, if you'd like to see our infographic, send me a note back. I don't want to start a conversation. I've got 300 more emails to go through. You send me the link. If I like it, great. If not, I'm moving on. I'm not going to send you an email back and start a whole new conversation. So don't do that during your outreach. And don't forget infographic sites. There are actually 3 different kinds of infographic sites out there that are galleries for infographics that are just a whole new audience that you wouldn't have reached if it was just your industry sites. Self-publishing sites are sites where you can create an account, you upload your infographic, you can upload the link to your landing page and text to go along with it, and post it on the gallery. Visually is a site like this. Flickr is a site like this. You can upload your infographics to Flickr on your own account and then start sharing it. Free submission sites are like my site, like Cool Infographics is a free submission site. Like I said, I get hundreds of submissions. I get to pick and choose which ones I like and which ones I post. So there's no guarantee that when you submit it, you're actually going to get exposure. So you got to, make a good pitch and make a good infographic in the first place. That's usually the big thing. And there are paid submission sites. So there are some gallery sites that cost you anywhere between $10 and $100 that say, give us your infographic. We just want $20 to spend the time to process it, to upload it to our site, and so you're paying for our intern's time or whatever to load your infographic. Generally, paid SEO is a bad thing. Google has not really gotten onto people who do paid submission sites for infographics because it's not that big of an industry. So it doesn't affect you as all as from a page rank or an SEO factor. I do maintain a list on Cool Infographics. So on my page of links, coolinfographics.com/links, I have these 3 sections and a whole bunch of sites under each of those sections if you're looking for which sites fall into these categories. And then there are PR sites. So your company may have a PR department. You may be contracted with a PR firm, but you can also go to any of these sites and just put up a press release about your new infographic. Right? Sometimes you can include the image, or sometimes it's just text. It says, hey, we have this new infographic about SEO strategies. It's this new great information that we've just developed this year. Here's the link comes to that. And you put this out as a press release, and you actually get a whole bunch of backlinks, and you'll show up in Google search results because you put out a press release. It makes an impact. And then there's tracking. So maybe you guys can help me with this, but really these are the 4 ways that I help clients track 4 weeks, 6 weeks later after they've published an infographic. How did it do? Right? Did we get any traffic? Did we get people back to our website? We certainly start with Google Analytics, right? So you can get the analytics of the web page, but it only tracks who actually landed on the web page, which makes a difference. On the web page, what did they click on? Where did they go from there? That's all good information. If you created your own link, shortened link, this is what Bitly looks like. You can get all the stats separately from the link shortener. How many people clicked the shortened link on Twitter or on Facebook? You can even create separate shortened links for your email blast versus your social media, so you can see how many people came from each direction. And you can see how many of those shared. So this is a whole bunch of good extra analytics that's not in your Google Analytics. Your social counters, generally, some do, some don't have counters. Like Twitter has removed their counter. So sometimes you can go see how many people clicked this tweet button on your page, but also on my page and whoever else published your infographic. Because if I posted on Cool Infographics, I'm actually probably likely to get more shares than you are from your company site. And so you want to go to my site and figure out who are the major sites that share your infographic and go look at their counters, if they're available, if you can see them. Because that's additional social media shares that you won't track if you only look at your own. Moz, anybody use Moz or Majestic? These are SEO tools you may or may not be familiar with. So the idea is for both of these sites, you can put in a URL and it will show you how many other sites have linked back to your landing page. So you not only get the number, let's see this one, yeah, so this one starts listing, here are all the sites and pages that have a link to your infographic landing page directly. And it starts with, in their terms, so Google has PageRank, but nobody else can use PageRank, that's their Google proprietary stuff. So each of these sites, like this one, creates your social score and your page authority and stuff like that. So it tries to sort these by the most important link that's giving you the most value to the least important, right? So Fast Company posts a link to your infographic, that's gonna be at the top. You know, your high school daughter's blog is gonna be at the bottom, you know, or something like that, as far as what that link is valuable to you. But then what you can do is go to those sites, right? And go see what they said, go see what their social counters said, and figure out, hey, did we get good press or bad press? And that's only if they actually included the link. And like I said earlier, a lot of people don't even include the link back to your website. Open SEO Stats, this is one of many. This is a plugin for Google Chrome that on any website, it'll show you the authority score. And if you open up this little widget, it'll show you PageRank, it'll show you how many links there are, how many pages linked back. It'll give you a lot of that SEO data on whatever page is currently being displayed in your browser. However, all the people that shared your infographic JPEG, they grabbed it and uploaded it and never gave you a backlink, you can find with reverse image searching. Is everybody familiar with reverse image searching? So reverse image searching is you start with an image and Google or Bing will tell you all the other websites that have that image. In Google Chrome, you can right click on any image and say, search the internet for this image. That's the easy way to do it. If you go to the Google page and up in the top right corner, you switch over to images, you can literally drag your JPEG infographic from your desktop or your file folder into Google. It will upload it to Google and it'll do the same image search. It'll go find it. The easiest way is to go to your landing page, just right click on your image. If you don't use Chrome, anybody use Firefox or Internet Explorer or anything like that? TinEye does the same thing, and they have plugins for all the other browsers. So if you're not using Chrome, you want that right-click functionality. TinEye has it for Safari and Firefox and Opera and all the other browsers as well. So it gives you that functionality just to be able to click and see who else shared it. And so this is what you get. So we're back to that James Bond infographic, right? And it'll tell you, here are all the websites that include a version, no matter what the size, a version of that infographic that you started with in your image search. But then you got to go in, figure out which one of these you care about, and figure out did they actually include a link or not. Because if they didn't, you want that link, right? That link is the best thing you can get in SEO. So if it's a high value link and you care about it, you should write them a note. Say, hey, thanks for sharing our infographic. We would love it if you included the link back to the original. Just be nice and friendly. If you send the lawyers in, forget it. They'll just delete the post altogether and you'll never see it again. But if you're friendly, most people will add that link. And some of these you won't care because it's your sister's daughter's high school blog or something like that, and it's okay. Okay, so a couple of resources just at the end. On Cool Infographics, I also have a tools page, and on the tools page, I've got a couple hundred DataViz and Infographics tools. Some of them are complete design platforms. Some of them are very specific. They just do word cloud, so they just do geospatial mapping data. So there's a whole bunch of tools here. I keep adding them because they keep getting bigger and bigger. If you guys find a tool that is not on the list or that you really like, send it to me. I'll make sure it's on the page. Anybody wants to check out the book, I have a couple copies here for you to look at. But you can download the first chapter for free. So the first chapter of the Cool Infographics book is at /book. Really easy. I only have one book, so it's really easy. But you can download the PDF and check it out. I do have a LinkedIn discussion group meant to be a discussion about the craft of visualizing data and publishing infographics. We do end up with people that come in and just say, hey, check out my infographic, and that's all they say, and they include a link. I usually moderate those out and delete those and try to make it an actual discussion about, hey, what would be the best way to post this? Or what's the right size to do this over here? Or what's the best way to visualize this data? We try to make it an actual meaningful conversation. They're about, I don't know, somewhere close to 2,000 members. So you can just lurk and see what other people are talking about or ask or answer questions of your own. But you're all welcome to join the group. And then I run the DFW DataViz meetup. We're just crossed 1,800 members. We're doing pretty well. Like I said, we do monthly meetings about any kind of DataViz topic. Last month it was actually just last week. It was Click, which is an analytics and data visualization platform. We've done Tableau. We've done other tools. We've done better presentation design. We've done R, and we've done D3. And so we've just this wide range of DataViz topics. So you just join, like this one, like this group, and you get notices, right? And you come to the ones you like. Sometimes we do it in Plano. Sometimes we do it in Dallas. We sort of bounce back and forth because SMU gives us space to hold the meetings. Anybody go on a state of search? Do you guys get into that kind of thing at all? So state of search is in October. I'll be speaking there this year, but if you buy a registration, you can get $100 off if you do it before July 1st if you use Randy K100. That's just a registration discount. There are only 80 tickets left as of about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So it's going to fill up in the next week or two. If you're into search, this is all SEO and search engine marketing and stuff like that. And that's it. If anybody has any questions, you can always reach me on Twitter or email or through the websites. I'm on all of them constantly. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Anybody want to dive into any topic in more depth? Have I put you all to sleep?
You said you have this in your website?
So on the link page at the beginning, the one URL I had you write down at this URL, I'm going to add the link. Okay, I haven't uploaded the PDF yet, but I'll upload the PDF so you can see the code and all those slides and stuff like that and find those websites. But this page has links to all those MOZs and Infographics tools and TinEye and all that stuff. So all those links are on this page already. It's just the slides aren't there yet. Yes?
Early on, you were talking about the different types of infographics, and you showed us coded ones, video, animated, etc. And you mentioned how it's kind of a problem to share some infographics because the fun part's gone.
You can't share the code.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any sort of a work in progress idea on solving that? What's the best way to get a pretty one out through
This
sharing?
is generally our answer, is to record a video or an animated GIF or even a still shot, right, of what the fully interactive landing page would look like, and then share that. And when you create your sharing buttons, you make that the image it pulls when somebody shares this page. So for example, that New York Times one, that was, what happened in the Obama years? Where is that? Is that this one? No. This one here. So, right, so this is the interactive site on New York Times, right? And so it shows you what happened in the Bush years, and then you click, and you draw yours, and then they show you what the real one is, right? Elsewhere on the page, if you click the Facebook button and say share to Facebook, this is what the image, it's a still image that shows up on Facebook that has multiple choices, meaning what's it going to be? Do you know what happened, right? And so they created this still image as their draw to get you into the interactive page. And so you've got to create that kind of media, and then the only way that works is if you go into the Facebook button code, right, and say, when someone hits Facebook, use this image. This image doesn't show up anywhere on the landing page. It is nowhere on the interactive page. It's on the server, and it's in the Facebook button code, but it's not displayed on that page anywhere. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does. Are there any social media?
But you don't like that answer.
No. Are there any social media sites that you are aware of that allow you to upload GIF images?
So Twitter and Facebook will display animated GIFs.
Okay.
Twitter, you can upload it. Facebook, you have to link to it, and it will display as an animated GIF.
You mean like in your post, you put the link instead of uploading an image?
Yep.
Okay.
And so you have to have it on your server somewhere
Yeah.
and get that JPEG, or that GIF address, and then put that address in your Facebook post, and Facebook will go find that image and display it as an animated GIF. And it has that little circle in the middle that says GIF, and they have to click it to actually make it animate on the desktop.
Okay.
I think on mobile it automatically animates if you've seen those.
Okay, great.
But Twitter, you can just upload on Twitter. You just upload the GIF and it'll animate.
I like that answer better. Thank you.
Yeah. I can show you one if you want to see one. Because I posted one this afternoon. Let's switch to see my screen. Go. Ooh. Oh, I'm on the internet. Never mind. I'm not linked. I didn't hook up to the Wi-Fi. So we'll wrap up, and then I can link to the Wi-Fi if you want to see it, or we can go to
Okay.
Yeah.
your laptop and take a look.
What was your call sign? What was the S sign? Your,
Oh, so it's at RTKRUM. God, the screen's horrible. Yeah, so follow me on Twitter. I generally post links to any new infographics. I put in infographics, any discount codes, and generally DataViz news. So Microsoft Power BI launches a new tool or whatever. I generally put all that stuff out on both Facebook and Twitter as just a data news feed for DataViz news.
So how, I don't know if I can ask this question or not. How can you run your business? The user pay you?
Okay, so InfoNew, we do design and publishing and promotion if they want that. They don't have to. But we have an infographic design process that we will start with the data and the story they want to tell. There might be image assets they already have. We will try visualizing the data and do that structure, the three-part story, and create images and do a whole bunch of design concepts about, you want cartoons, you want it very serious and business-like and stuff like that. And sometimes the design project ends with that, like here's your infographic, we're done. Sometimes they say they want all this help. We will do the landing page for them. We will design the social media posts and all the thumbnails for them. We'll do the outreach for them and all the tracking at the back end to figure out how many people shared it and how many websites picked it up. We can do all that as sort of add-on services. And that's part of that first half, which is all the marketing infographics of our business. The stuff that we do for sales presentations and board meetings, people don't care about that. We can design, charts or DataViz that just go into your PowerPoint, or we can design an entire presentation, but it's all about just business communication, not marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool.
Generally, we try to scope out a project. I have an infographic creative brief. It's a Word doc. If anybody wants a copy of it, just send me a note. And it's got 15 questions that basically help scope out how big is this design project. You already have the data. How much data are we talking about? Do you want a tall infographic or do you want to fit on a piece of paper? All those kind of questions that we need to know. And then I would cost out an entire project cost. I try not to work hourly if I can help it. I try to say, here's the cost and here's what you're going to get at the end.
Cool.
Okay? All right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it.